Hey everybody, my name is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com with another 101 video, and this one's on spontaneous order. So I'm a big fan of philosophy and economics, and the idea of spontaneous order is one of a couple different ideas that really sort of is a big part of what Friedrich von Hayek was a big contributor to. It was that and sort of the idea of knowledge transmitting through prices, that prices transmit knowledge. But these two ideas are very, very closely entwined. And this is the idea that people don't necessarily need a central boss to tell people to just work things out for society to function. Okay, because a lot of times when you express that, you know what, we don't need this institution to tell everybody what to do, whether you're talking about a government or some other type of central authority, people will go, well, you just want chaos. The idea behind spontaneous order is that absent a central order, a centralized order, isn't chaos, but a decentralized order, a spontaneous order that sort of erupts or emerges, okay, also referred to as an emergent order, that just kind of emerges from all of us trying to figure out what we need. Okay, because all of us realize that we can't do everything on our own. So while each of us try to figure out who to work with to get the things we want and what we can provide, an order eventually sort of emerges. But to be clear, because people get very confused and think that sort of any kind of organization of people is a spontaneous order or an emergent order, let's just clarify. So there are all different types of orders in the sense that individuals acting in a way that is almost in concert. There's explicit order. So this is like if you form a union or you participate in a democracy or in a business. The idea is that you realize that you are working with other people and you act with intention. Okay, so I'm intentionally voting to choose who's in charge of X group. I'm intentionally joining this organization because they share a mission that I have. That's an explicit order. That is not what is necessarily meant by spontaneous order. So let's say one of the best essays that kind of explain this, and the best example of a spontaneous order is the division of labor, meaning sort of all the different people that have to do things to get the stuff that we use. So for example, of this phone that I'm recording this podcast on right now, how many different people did this phone have to go through before it got to me? I mean, I got it from the retail store. But before the retail store, it had to be shipped to a warehouse, a wholesaler. And before that, it was in a factory. And that factory had to order all the different components that make this phone. And many of those components had to be built within themselves. Many of the microchips in this phone were separately made out of several separate inputs. But the factory that makes the microchips isn't sitting there coordinating with the people who are arranging for the silicone, for the all the different materials that are used to make that chip. They're not sitting there coordinating how they do things. The natural resource producer is just focusing on producing natural resources and selling it to whoever's willing to buy it. And because they're there doing their thing, this other person's intention can occur. And overall, when all those different pieces just kind of line up, you end up with the ability for me to have this smartphone inside of me. Okay, and a wonderful essay that kind of illustrates this is the essay I, Pencil. And if you haven't read I, Pencil, it's not a super long essay. It's a heavily worthwhile read. It just kind of shows you how something simple as a pencil can be subject to such a complex and beautiful division of labor that there was no one who sat there and said, okay, we need someone to make the silicone, we need someone to make this, and forced those people and directed those people to do it. Different people independently said, hey, I want to produce X, Y, and Z. I want to consume X, Y, and Z, and went to deploy those resources independently. But when you step back, you see how it all just kind of magically connects. That's spontaneous order. But that spontaneous order can only be discovered if people are free to sit there and say, hey, I'm going to produce X, or I'm going to go consume Y. And that's sort of the underlying sort of libertarian argument or insight, that we're not saying that just saying letting people be free is not going to make all the problems in the world go away. So if I sit there and say, hey, you know what? You're not going to pay any taxes. I'm not going to have any more government regulations. You're on your own. Your life is now going to be magical. That is not what libertarians are saying. What they are saying is that absent a central order, whether it's less central order than we have now, which would just mean less tax and less regulation, or absent a central order, our individual actions will, over time, create that spontaneous order and find the solutions to our problems. The problem, if people aren't free to act because somebody else fills that vacuum through a sort of a central order by saying, hey, you know what, we're going to do this. So that kind of signals to everybody else to not do all the things that kind of end up in these sort of decentralized solutions. That those solutions, those potential solutions, never occur, and oftentimes those solutions have all sorts of other benefits because you're creating resources that are going to be used for example, that microchip that's being in that factory is not going to be just for the smartphone. It might be used in 10 other devices that other people haven't thought of. So basically, each step doesn't lock. There's a huge sort of tree of possibilities that occur each step in that division of labor, each step in that spontaneous order, and it just keeps branching and branching as everybody thinks of ideas and goes and tries them out because they're free to do so. The concern that libertarians have is as you have a central order, one, it eliminates certain possibilities, certain branches, and over time inherently has an incentive to do so. Okay, partly because over time a lot of these central orders become starved for resources. They may, people always look at it like, do we have the money now? Do we have the resources now? But they're not thinking what happens down the road. How would that institution behave when it's starved for resources? I mean, you can see this aspect with like lots of times localities. If they're short for taxes, you're going through a local recession, then the police might be a little bit more strict with tickets. They start instituting a little bit more fines and licensing across the town. A permit for this, a permit for that. And then the response is people just do less stuff. Since I need to get like 10 permits to start a business, I'm just not going to start a business. Since I get a ticket every time I'm out on the road, I'm just not going to drive. And it actually ends up strangling and destroying itself. And that's essentially the fear, that a central order sort of undermines itself and also prevents the benefits of a decentralized order from emerging and providing all of its value. So that's sort of the idea of a spontaneous order. Again, not to be confused, which is a implicit order, meaning the order is happening, but no one's saying it. It's just happening. It's magical in a sense. All these different steps happen. While an explicit order is just, me joining a club or me starting a group with a few other people. We are intentionally coordinating with others, not sort of serendipitously coordinating with others. And that's sort of the insight, that basically without somebody coordinating everybody, we do just sort of coordinate. And this is where the whole prices thing comes in. It's the fact that we can see prices go up and down, and this is why markets are important, that we can see what resources are scarce because their prices are really high, which resources are plentiful because their prices are really low, that we can better coordinate with each other. That allows that spontaneous order to occur because all of us can act on that information without necessarily having all the information, because prices transmit that. So in order to have a spontaneous, emergent, decentralized order, you do need money, you do need prices, and prices need to be free so they can transmit knowledge. It's all of this that allows sort of the benefits of a sort of a libertarian order, a decentralized, voluntary order to possibly exist. And that's sort of the argument that kind of underlies what libertarians are trying to say most of the time. So hopefully you guys found that interesting. My name is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com. If you guys enjoyed this video, please share it. Also, if you'd like to support all the projects and all my efforts to educate, head over to donate.alexmerced.com and support the cause. And subscribe to my podcast, and I'll talk to you guys soon.